Welcome to another episode of Crosstalk. My name is Kevin Tocci. I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. And as you know, the show is usually used as something that we talk about things that are going on in the community, whether it's politics, maybe it's an upcoming event, maybe just things that to bring you some awareness as to something that's going on. And that's kind of what today's show is all about. Be a little bit focused about the town of Whitman, as there's a very special event that has been planned and has been organized for this upcoming new year. Joining me are my two guests. We have Selectman Board of Chairman Carl Kowalski, Dr. Carl Kowalski, and of course, some folks like to call him the Mayor of Whitman. He is a local business owner, Mr. Rich Rosen. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good, very good, Kevin. Good to see you.
So what's the auspicious reason why we are gathered here today? Mr. Rosen, I know you're a good storyteller. So
once upon a time, no.
Way back when.
Way back when. We're going to do something this year, New Year's Eve, that has never been done in the town of Whitman, and we're going to have a first night. And of course, what would you do in Whitman that makes it logical to have on a first night if you're going to drop a low or something? It would be a Toll House cookie. So we intend to lower a very large Nestle's Toll House cookie from a distance of 75 feet in the air, which I'll explain later. This started, this is an idea that I had had rolling around in my head for some years. People had approached me about doing it. People had approached other members of the Winterfest committee about doing it. And for whatever reason, we've always resisted.
Right. Why? Why did you always resist?
You know, we do Winterfest every year, and Winterfest takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we have to raise a lot of money because, as you know, Winterfest is not funded by the town. The Winterfest is funded by a private group, the Winterfest Committee.
Right.
So we have to raise those monies. And I knew that it would take a substantial amount of money to do a first night, and I really didn't want to have to just go raise money for first night right after doing it for Winterfest, especially with the economy being in the way that it is. It's become harder to raise money for Winterfest over the last several years. So I really didn't want to do it. Someone who was a mutual friend of us and we were talking one day, and I don't know how it came up about first night, and he said, well, Carl had this thought of perhaps lowering a Nestle's Toll House cookie on New Year's Eve. And I was like, it can't be possible. So I immediately went out to find Carl, which I did the next day or two on Washington Street. I ran him down, as we've said, almost physically, but we chatted and realized that we were both thinking of doing the same thing. So I said, you know, this wouldn't be a bad thing for the Winterfest committee to do if we could get Nestle's to fund it.
Right.
So Carl and I chatted about it for a while. We exchanged some ideas. And I said, why don't we have a meeting? So we called for a Winterfest committee meeting. You know, there's that group of people that have been with me for 20 years.
Right. Well, it's good. You're entering your 20th anniversary.
This is our 20th anniversary of Winterfest.
Right.
And a lot of those people who are, you know, townies have been on my committee for 20 years. And called them up, said, we have a meeting on such and such a night. Nobody asked why, and I didn't tell them. I think they were shocked when they came in, and Carl Kowalski was in there, as well as his wife, and a couple of other people. And as they say, the rest is history. I don't know if Carl wants to
I wanted to actually ask Carl. I mean, where did you get the idea of lowering something? I mean, had you seen a similar, other than what we see every year in New York, did you see it anywhere else in the area?
Right, I have. My wife and I, for the last 4 years or so, have been going down to Chatham's first night.
Okay.
They have a first night in Chatham it's been going on for about 20 to 25 years, like Winterfest. And they have musical venues, you know, set in churches and in schools. It's kind of a long, long day. They have a parade. And at midnight, down at a little pond, Oyster Pond, down at the bottom of Chatham Center, they lower a giant metal codfish. Set up a crane. It's a very simple operation. They have the clock that ticks down, and at 1 foot per second, at 60 seconds before midnight, they lower this giant codfish. And all they do is just lower it. People are gathered around. They come from the different venues. They show up there at midnight. And someone sings the national anthem or God Bless America or something like that.
Yep.
Old Lang Syne. And they lower the fish. And then they have a firework display. And so one of the days I was there, we were there with a couple of people that we knew, and I said, gee, why couldn't Whitman do a first night? You know, it's a very, center of town is very compact. There are some places where you could do things. Maybe something like this could happen there. And my wife Carol says, well, would we lower anything? And I said, well, what could we lower? And we both thought of lowering a Toll House cookie. What Whitman is known for, a Toll House, it's known for a few things. I was on the historical commission once with the late Russell Gardner, who knew everything about Whitman. Russell, who could trace his family back to the Mayflower.
That's fantastic.
And also to the Wampanoags. He was half and half, kind of a remarkable man. But he would tell you that the man who trained Paul Revere to cast bells came from Whitman. He will tell you that the Toll House cookie was invented in Whitman in 1939, and that Cardinal Spellman is a Whitman man, Cardinal Spellman of New York. Lowering a cardinal probably
it's not a good thing.
It wouldn't work.
Might be frowned upon, I think.
That's right. It would look too much like hanging someone in effigy. So that
Can't have that.
And lowering a Paul Revere bust, maybe not so
That's
hot.
not good either. No.
So we thought of the cookie. And then Richie and I met when Richie ran me down, and we explored that idea, and some things have happened since then. Richie's a hard-working guy, and his committee is a hard-working committee, and they really have run with this whole idea.
Well, and the thing is that the committee has been meeting for how long, Richie?
Our first meeting was at the end of January, believe it or not, and we really didn't want anybody to know about it. The reason was that I didn't want people getting excited about something if we couldn't produce. So we kept it pretty quiet. We did some planning, some strategy. And what we really wanted, and what I really wanted more than anything, was to have Nestle's support. With Nestle's support, it takes the heat off and it will get done. Right. So we had the first meeting in January, and everybody just looked at us too like, you guys are nuts, but yeah, we'll do it. And I arranged a conference call with Nestle's, with some people from Nestle's, in early February. And I was on the phone with 3 people for 35 minutes, pitching to them what I wanted to do. You know, you need to remember that Nestle's has been very good to Whitman over the years.
And I was going to ask that. I know that they have been very good in several avenues, right?
What most people don't know, and a lot of people don't know, is the Winterfest committee brought you the playground that is now in Town Park. When the last one got condemned, we were asked, the Winterfest committee, to see if we could do this thing.
Right.
And we worked for months planning the building of this playground and the actual build. We'd go on bus tours of playgrounds, and also included in that was raising $125,000. And we did it in 8 months. 50,000 of that 125 came from Nestle's. So they have been very, very good to Whitman. As well as I know that they have given money to the Whitman Park, to the Restoration Committee Park. So when I entered discussions with them, Toll House, and I was explaining what I wanted to do, and I said, I want to lower this cookie from, we'll lower it 60 feet. And someone in the background said, why don't you lower it from 75 feet? I'm like, we'll lower it however you want. What I didn't know was the significance to the 75-foot remark was that it is also the 75th anniversary of the Nestle Toll House cookie. So there is some serious significance to what we're doing, other than just going out and having fun.
Right, 75 is kind of instrumental in a number of things, the diameter of the cookie, right?
I think that might have been an accident. I don't really know.
Instead of 74 inches or 76.
Yeah, 76.
But if a jeweler is helping to create it, would it actually be an accident?
Let's explain how that happened.
Okay.
The cookie was fabricated well before we had the approval or the commitment from Nestle's.
Right.
One of our committee
and the town
members,
approval.
And the town approval. One of our committee members, David Menard, who's been with me since the beginning, was taking a welding class at South Ave Tech.
He makes big jewels.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So he, And
So this might be fate.
it could be.
Could be fate.
So he
She's
talked
out of
to
nowhere just does a 75-foot cookie,
75-inch.
75-inch diameter
So-
cookie. I apologize.
He talked to his instructor, and the next thing I know is he's sending me a picture of this massive cookie made out of aluminum, and it is a pretty cool looking cookie.
Looks kind of like a spaceship now. Actually.
Yeah, it does.
It's metal, you know.
But it's going to be aesthetically. You're gonna do things, paint it, lighting.
It's going to have lights in it that will look like little chocolate chip morsels, and it's going to be lowered. Yes, I know you were about to ask me who was going to lower it. It's going to be lowered by.
I was actually going to ask Carl a question, then ask you that, but that's okay.
It was going to be lowered by Jeff Palazza.
Okay.
From Palazza McDonough Tree Service. I brought him in early and swore him to secrecy. So we've brought different people in.
I don't get it. How can in today's day and age, when the Kardashians can't even keep a secret about a divorce, how can this be such a well-kept secret with today's media? How did it not get out?
I have no
by
idea.
at least February that this was going to be happening?
Because a number of people actually knew about it, and we actually went out and sought different people from different groups. 30.
Yeah, one of the funniest things was we have a member of our Board of Selectmen who was our representative to South Shore Votech.
And he didn't even know.
He didn't know,
Oh,
and
that's
he
interesting.
reports on what's going on in South Shore Votech.
He's very active.
Every
I
other
mean,
week he is.
we record the meetings, and he's very active as to things that are going
Had
on.
no idea that under his nose, a 75-inch cookie was being constructed.
But he knows now.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
does.
and,
He does.
you
He
know,
was
and it's all
one
good.
of the. Now, what was it like because you actually went in a couple of weeks ago to seek approval for Winterfest, but you kind of piggybacked it, so to speak, or dovetailed this event right on. Not only are you asking for permission about Winterfest, but you're also and by the way, was it something like that, or am I wrong?
No,
It's
it
a
was
stealth attack.
Yeah, it was a stealth attack.
Yeah. We wanted to surprise Dan Salvucci.
We actually.
Was he surprised?
He seemed to be surprised.
I think everybody was quite shocked.
Yeah.
What I did was I went before the board. It was kind of amusing from where I was standing because I knew that there was the police chief and the fire chief in the room or on the committee. They knew what was going on. Dr. Kowalski, sitting as chairman of the Board of Selectmen, obviously has been in the committee, knew what was going on. So there was some amusement to it. But I went up to ask permission for 20th Winterfest, as well as explain some of the things that the Winterfest Committee has done in the last 20 years. And I said, by the way, there's one more thing that the Winterfest Committee would like to do. And I'm sure that other than the other three people, there was a number of Winterfest Committee members there. The board had no idea what that one other thing was going to be because I could tell by their expressions that they were like, "You're going to do what?" So it was fun.
By design, are you hoping that there's no similarities? That you're going to have two different events that will be very unique onto each other? Is that sound about right?
Yeah, Winterfest is a family event. Winterfest involves activities for children, Santa Claus, and slides and all those kinds of things. This is more for adults. We might as well talk about the hours. Some of those details that have been ironed out.
Yeah, Winterfest will not change. Winterfest will be the same. It will be Sunday, December 1st. That was very clear at the beginning that it would be two separate events. We're not going to piggyback a lot of those events from Winterfest into First Night. First Night, it may be our only First Night, but we do want to keep it somewhat simple. So the streets will be closed by 9 p.m. We have 3 bands, which Kyle will tell you about in a minute. We've hired already 3 bands, and we're going to get a couple of ramp trucks. And logistically, we believe it's going to be at the corner of, everything is going to take place right smack dab in Whitman Center. And we think the ramp trucks that we're going to put the bands on, we're going to build a stage, will be at the corner of Temple Street and Washington Street. So it'll be from 9 to about 12:15, 12:30. With the 3 bands starting, we're going to phase them in and out. They may be all 3 at the same time. Kyle and I met with and the fire chief met with the State Fire Marshal's office the other day because we want to have a pyrotechnic show off of a building in Whitman Center.
Well, I have to ask, what was the fire chief's concerns as far as he was
Burning down the center of town.
Couldn't have that.
Yes,
yeah.
he didn't want that. He didn't want the first night to be the last night because there was no longer a center of Whitman.
That's his job to kind of be concerned about things.
And he was concerned.
He was
Tim
concerned.
Greno was concerned, but he had the fire marshal come down last Monday, and we met in the center of town, and the fire marshal went over our idea to to do pyrotechnics from Duval's roof.
And the individual who was going to be doing it was very assuring that he's never had a problem.
Well, his assurance was when I talked to him was that, listen, just tell him I've never burnt a building down. So they do. There's a difference between fireworks and pyrotechnics.
Yes.
And the people that we hire to do our fireworks show in December and in June at the carnival is the same gentleman. He does what they call the Ring of Fire at Gillette Stadium when they do the pyrotechnics around the stadium. You know, we've all seen these pyrotechnics, frankly, indoors. They do it at Fenway Park. They do it a number of places. So
If you watch wrestling on Monday nights or some nights during the week on cable, they do the fireworks when an entertainer or a wrestler comes out, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
It usually is fireworks that are shooting up inside. So
it's there's a different heat that's involved in what they use, and they dissipate. So we did meet with him, and he knew, the gentleman from the fire marshal's office knew in advance what products we would be using. So he was fine with it. The fire chief is now fine with it. We're going to. What was really interesting was the day I went into Duval's and said, "Listen, I need to talk to you in secret." So he and I had a private discussion, and it was like, "Oh, by the way, I want to do a fireworks show off your roof." And he kind of looked at me and was like, "What?" And we explained to him that the guy said he's never burnt a building down. And as long as they're indemnified, I went back to him the other day, actually, after we met with the fire marshal, and they're fine. So we believe that the place will be off of.
I went to Duval's right afterwards too, and they were a little bit nervous in there. They were saying, "No, are we really doing fireworks off the top of the roof?" I said, "Well, no, not exactly fireworks. The fire marshal just gave us clearance. Richie would probably be talking to you shortly. I didn't know how shortly."
Yeah, I went in and spoke to him, and they're okay.
But I have to kind of, you had mentioned earlier, go back or digress to some of the acts. There's going to be 3 bands. Who are the bands that are going to be performing?
Yeah, Richie has firsthand knowledge of a couple of the bands because some of them played at McGuigan's, the pub down near the center of town.
Right.
That makes very good pizza, by the way, as well as an amazing steak. But one of the
Sound like a promo. I could be wrong.
Mike Costas and Kim Tompkinson.
Correct.
Tim Conkinson are going to be playing. Rob Peters is going to be
Jimmy
Jimmy
Peters.
Peters is going to be
That's
playing.
my mistake.
And Rob Pugnano from Whitman, who graduated from high school with my son Craig, has a band called 6 Foot Sunday.
Correct.
And
it's a 5-piece band. They played at the.
They're very popular on the South
They
Shore.
played at the candlelight ceremony last December for Sandy Hook. To remember the people there and send our thoughts and prayers to the people from Connecticut, and they were excellent. I had emailed my son and said, "Can you get in touch with Rob and see what he thinks?" And my son immediately got back to me with Rob's phone number, called Rob up. This was last Monday, I think it was, or a week ago Monday. Called Rob up, and he was interested. They weren't doing anything at that point in time on New Year's Eve, although they do play 260 nights out of the year, out of 365. And so I got Rob in touch with Richie. They talked a few minutes later, and Richie signed them up. And we're excited. They're a good band. The 3 acts are terrific. Going to have music from 9 o'clock until midnight.
Yeah, my daughter Danielle knows all 3 of the people.
Yeah.
She does the bookings at the pub, and all 3 groups that are playing are very excited. They've put stuff out on Facebook. Rob put something out on Facebook the other day, I guess, I was told, and it had a tremendous response. My daughter was showing me some of the remarks, and under one of my Costas' remarks, someone said, "Is this really going to happen?" Which I thought was an interesting remark. It's an alternative.
Well, Boston is not going to be having an event.
It
Is
was
that
announced
Today that
today.
they are.
They are.
Yeah.
You know what it
They're
is?
going to have something.
They're fearing the cookie.
It's
It's the fear of the cookie. That's
Fearing
right.
the cookie.
That's right.
it's being funded privately in Boston.
Okay.
But
Nestle's nudged them
yeah,
into doing first night.
Okay.
We'll take responsibility for Boston's first night.
absolutely.
But I think where will folks can choose to either go all the way to Boston or come to a quaint little South Shore town like Whitman and see something that's very unique onto itself, correct?
The response has been unbelievable. Of all the things that we've done over the years, the response in just a couple of weeks since we announced this has been really remarkable. It has a lot of people talking.
I have to say, is when you 2 gentlemen are involved with something of this magnitude, usually things are well planned out, and usually the outcome is sensational. I'm not just saying it because you're here in front of me, but there's usually anything that's done in this town, and that you gentlemen are involved. It's something that's
Thank you, Kevin.
And we hope so.
Something to keep in mind. Now, you've talked about dropping a cookie. You've talked about...
Actually, it's lowering a cookie, Kevin.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Dropping a cookie has given some people a different impression. That
Right.
We're actually going
Lowering-
to take a large cookie and drop it and then
Lowering
eat
it,
the piece.
75 seconds until midnight. That's the idea.
A foot per second, 75
We have a nice
seconds.
big clock, so folks will be able to see it as the countdown is going in. So we lower the cookie. You're going to have bands. You're going to have pyrotechnics. Is there anything else that you're kind of looking at to kind of fill in certain areas of the evening, or do you feel that kind of those are the quintessential things? And the other thing I think we might want to get out there is when do we start seeing the streets of Whitman in the downtown area start being closed down or getting ready for this event? Do we have those?
We don't know
details?
that yet.
Okay.
That's going to be a public safety thing with Chief Benton. We are going to require some time. The good news is that most places are closed because it's New Year's Eve.
Correct.
But we are going to require some time getting the crane in place, getting the ramp trucks in place, building the stage on the ramp truck once they're put in place. So I don't know how early, but it's going to be a similar shutdown to Winterfest, but the perimeter will be brought in a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly. If I was to guess, I would guess that they may start shutting the streets down at 5 o'clock at night, but I don't know that.
Are there any other details that you're allowed to kind of share with us while we have you here? No, I mean,
pretty much it.
Giving
is there
you
going to be a website? Is there going to be a button? I mean,
that's
what's
a
some
good
of the other?
question.
What are some of the? Yeah, I know it's
not a
good
bad
question. Yeah.
As opposed to the Winterfest button, which is being designed, and that's the 20th anniversary button.
Okay.
We have been talking about a button, and we meet again next week. We're now starting to meet a lot. There is talk about a button, more so a souvenir button, as opposed to one that's required to do anything. Some of the other events, we're not telling you.
It'll be free.
It'll be free. Everything is free.
Yeah.
Thanks to Nestle's and the generosity of funding this. That's really what is making this possible. It enables us to hire the 3 bands. Yep. It enables us to have the pyrotechnics. Nestle's the reason that you asked me why it was 2 weeks ago that I announced was because it was 3 weeks ago that Nestle's agreed to fund it.
Right.
Which it's just huge for us. It's huge for Whitman. And there may be some other ramifications from this in terms of the fact that it's the 75th anniversary of the cookie, in terms of some national advertising. So we'll see.
Anything change as far as the committee? Are you guys meeting more frequently as we start getting closer to the holidays?
It kind of reminds me of Winterfest. We meet X amount of times a year for Winterfest. We meet X amount of times a year for the carnival. This reminds me of when we did the 125th anniversary events in the year 2000. We were asked by the Board of Selectmen to do those, and we did 10 events over a 1 year period. It was a little less than a year, starting with a ball, ending with the biggest parade Whitman's ever seen. And we actually met every other week for almost a year. Wow. It's kind of crazy. We will start meeting every other week for the next couple of months until this happens. There's the old 6P principle, but it has to do with proper planning. And we want to make sure, as you've alluded to, that this comes off right.
We got about 5 minutes left to the end of the program. Is there any stone that we have not unturned, anything that we have not mentioned, at least to this point, that you want to make sure you get out as information to anybody who's going to watch this, or anybody who might want to participate in this, or if you're looking for assistance in any particular area that you're looking to sync up?
We may be looking for some volunteers the night of.
Okay.
Everything else is pretty much under control by the committee and the people that we've reached out to help us. So I'm not sure that we will be seeking some people out to help us on New Year's Eve.
There's one part that we did not touch upon. I know you had mentioned about the Chatham lowering the cod, and I know that there has been a lot of discussion over the past few meetings, because somehow I'm privy to some of these meetings, and that is that is there a concept into as far as lowering the cookie? What are you going to lower it just to lower it, or are you going to lower it into something? Because when I think of cookies, I think of other, things that might be refreshing to drink once I have a cookie.
Probably the default position is to simply lower the cookie. I think what they
the
do,
default.
they lower the ball in Times
just
Square.
lower
They
it.
don't lower it into anything.
Anything, right.
They lower the fish. They don't lower the codfish down in Chatham into a
this is
pond.
Whitman. We
They
have
just
to be different.
They just lower the fish. But we have talked about trying to fashion something that this cookie could be reasonably lowered into.
We've talked a lot about it, about what to lower it into. The problem, however, is the logistics of where it's going to be lowered in the center and what we can actually put there.
And if it's windy, it becomes a real matter of skill, lowering a cookie that's swaying back and forth
Yeah.
into,
We can't have
into
that.
anything. Obviously, we thought of a glass of milk. Something that looks like a glass
A
of milk.
facade or something that maybe you might lower it.
That amongst other things, is still a work in progress, as they say.
So we might receive an update somewhere down the road as to at least that one small detail. It's not a major one. I mean, I think the major details is just the lowering of the cookie, that you have, entertainment for that evening.
Shutting down the streets.
That it's
Inviting anyone
it's
that
going to be
would like to
safe
be
to
there.
have pyrotechnics going off on a building in downtown Whitman, and that everybody's going to have a good time.
That's right.
We just really want to encourage people to come out. I mean, Whitman is such a unique small town. I've said it a million times. You've heard me say it. Our center is such a great little spot. There's almost zero vacancy in Whitman Center. Whitman is coming back. Whitman Center is alive and well. Doing these things in Whitman is huge for Whitman. And we just encourage people to come out and enjoy themselves. I mean, it's going to cost nothing. You don't have to drive very far. You don't have to go to Boston.
And this is an open invitation. This is
an
just for Whitman residents.
No, it's for
Anybody
anybody.
who is able to view this program, whether
Correct.
it's on our channel, YouTube, you name it.
Correct. We just want people to come. I am anticipating a very large crowd. I mean, we're providing some serious entertainment for 3 hours in Whitman Center on New Year's Eve. I mean, I think it's going to be, I know it's already been very well received, and I think we're going to have a huge turnout. And we do just encourage people to come out, as well to come out for Winterfest.
Is there a chance? I mean, you're fabricating this gigantic, 75-inch diameter cookie, that this thing could be used again down the road?
It is a metal cookie.
To do what with?
An aluminum cookie.
Yes, aluminium. Yes, it's this could be the first and last first night. It could also be the first. Winterfest has gone on for 20 years.
20 years.
So we don't know. There are some real possibilities I see in that area around the center of Whitman, where you could have entertainment, musical acts at different venues, staffed by volunteers from churches, businesses, or whatever. So it could become a larger event. But right now we're focused on.
Last word, Mr. Rosen,
this
before
year.
we close the show.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank Nestle's for supporting us. I mean, Nestle's is really what is going to make this happen. I mean, we'll make it happen, but Nestle's is paying the bill.
Excellent. And folks, that's another Crosstalk. Make sure you get down to the center of Whitman on December 31st at 9 p.m. and check out these festivities. Don't forget Winterfest, the first Sunday, I believe, in December. So on the Crosstalk, I'm Kevin Tocci for Carl Kowalski and Richard Rosen and the rest of the crew here. Have a great day.